Hey there everyone, this is Michael Dougal, and in this video I'm going to answer the question, should you take L-Tyrosine when so many people aren't? L-Tyrosine is an amino acid that's found in abundance in chicken breast, egg whites, turkey as well, but when used independently in supplemental form, you'll find that it really increases energy levels and it decreases stress. And of the many different amino acid supplements out there, it's been my experience that L-Tyrosine has been the most effective, even when I look at things like L-theanine and I look at taurine, for example. One of the reasons why L-Tyrosine is so effective for individuals is because of the fact that it increases dopamine levels, and as a result of increasing dopamine levels, suddenly we're motivated, and that means we have more concentration. It's much easier to avoid distractions while providing a significant energy boost. Now, a lot of people in the past have gravitated towards the use of L-Tyrosine for the cognition benefit because of the fact that studies showed virtually no side effects, and that still does seem the case. If we look at this study here, for example, individuals that used L-Tyrosine can be more productive than typically if they were like dehydrated or experienced really cold temperatures that their body typically wasn't accustomed to. So although studies don't show that there's adverse effects, we certainly do know that L-Tyrosine can increase anxiety levels. That would be pretty much the major side effect. When I ingest L-Tyrosine, I'm very aware of the fact that it does make me slightly anxious. However, I'm aware as well that the pros do outweigh the cons. The pros being that I'm simply more productive. And I think with most supplements out there that are going to be slightly stimulating, slightly energizing, there is at the same time going to be an increase of anxiety. If we look at caffeine, for instance, a lot of people don't take it because of the increased anxiety that comes along with it, but it's a really strong energy enhancer. And caffeine actually enhances dopamine signaling in the brain. So what happens is when you ingest caffeine, your body perceives there's an emergency happening and it stimulates the adrenal glands to release adrenaline. And L-Tyrosine, I would say it's similar in the sense of it doesn't boost energy levels as much as caffeine, and then at the same time it doesn't increase anxiety levels as much as caffeine, but it does feel very similar in the sense of socially sometimes I'm a little bit shy because I don't want to say the wrong thing, but like in a sales context, because of the fact that L-Tyrosine is making you more motivated, you will not have a problem making those phone calls. If you're somebody that just doesn't like that overall anxious feeling, then you may want to stay clear of L-Tyrosine. The second major side effect with L-Tyrosine is the irritability that comes along with it. And it's interesting because with the irritability, it's often very unpredictable because the effectiveness of L-Tyrosine depends on a lot of factors. It depends on what's going on at that specific moment. Like one of the most common complaints with L-Tyrosine is that it's very inconsistent. Sometimes you really feel it working, sometimes you ingest it, you don't feel anything at all. Sometimes you're more irritable and sometimes you're feeling great and optimistic. And the reason for this is because there's other factors that come into consideration, such as like neurotransmitter activity at that specific time. Do you have low tyrosine at that time? Are you well rested? Are you well fed? So with L-Tyrosine, I wouldn't necessarily say you have to find your sweet spot as far as the dosage is concerned, but more so just try to keep the other factors consistent so that you understand how to best use L-Tyrosine. For example, maybe 1 month you can try using L-Tyrosine specifically in a fasted state in the morning, and then the next month maybe you can try something like using it in the afternoon. Instead of having that extra cup of coffee to get your energy boosted, use some L-Tyrosine. That's a very practical use of it. It's been my experience that I feel the most irritability and aggression during those times when I take L-Tyrosine too late in the day. Then what I do like about it is that I do get an energy boost, though I feel very irritable at the same time. So it's like that feeling when you're really hungry, so you get some energy, but then you feel that hunger level even more so. And then what happens? Nothing is tolerable anymore and you don't have the patience for people. The side effects are highly variable. Some people will feel better socially when they're ingesting L-Tyrosine, but some people become too irritable that they actually resist social activity. And the third side effect that I'm seeing recently talked about is L-Tyrosine causing brain fog. And you want to look at brain fog like a total loss of concentration. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to answer questions. It's harder to learn things. It's hard to execute tasks. Some individuals only experience that brain fog with L-Tyrosine like during the later portion of L-Tyrosine actually working. So for most individuals, when they ingest L-Tyrosine, they can feel good for about 90 minutes, and then somewhere about the 2-hour mark, that's when they feel a little bit of brain fog. I feel a little bit, but I wouldn't say it's that extreme. The only thing that would be preventing me from taking L-Tyrosine would be like the slight increase of anxiety. So I have it in the powder form. I also have it in the capsule form. This is from Nootropics Depot. Though with L-Tyrosine, I haven't found it really mattered much which brand I got it from. What did matter though was whether I took it in a powder form or whether I took it in a capsule form. So for those of you that may have had a bad experience using L-Tyrosine in the powder form, making the adjustment and switching to capsules really can make a big difference. For example, I use the powder form when I'm using it for pre-workout purposes because that's when I'm taking L-Tyrosine along with some other ingredients such as like beta-alanine, citrulline malate. I'll use some creatine monohydrate. But when I'm in a fasted state specifically and I'm using L-Tyrosine, I much rather would take it in the capsule form. I feel better, I don't get the anxiety, and I definitely don't experience any brain fog. Or sometimes I would ingest the powder form in a fasted state and I would get really bad headaches. So how you may want to consider taking L-Tyrosine, especially if you're new to it, don't take it every single day. Try it every other day. Dosages of 500 milligrams up to 2 grams are common, but a good practice to take is just trying 750 milligrams per day. That's typically a capsule size. 500 milligrams is a little bit on the lower side, but it may still be effective for you. And so if you're somebody very sensitive to nootropics like myself, I feel like I can notice anything working or not working. L-Tyrosine at a 500 milligram dosage could be a good place to start off with. Again, you're going to notice the best results with L-Tyrosine in the event you are not taking it along with a meal. So ideally fasted. Of course, it's okay to take with water and it's okay to take with other calories as well. Like I mentioned, it's one of the most popular ingredients in pre-workout formulas. As a matter of fact, one way I can tell if a pre-workout is a good product is based on the amount of L-Tyrosine it contains. The way that I'm personally taking L-Tyrosine is I'm taking 1.5 grams first thing in the morning before my workouts, and that gives you that energy boost. There's also some research showing that it can actually help with fat loss, and I have found that there is some sort of good synergy when mixing L-Tyrosine along with caffeine. So if you're going to use it for a pre-workout purpose, then it may make sense to take more than the 750 milligrams in that specific serving. But if I am to use L-Tyrosine later on during the day, and this only happens maybe once or twice a week, then I would use something like 500 to 750 milligrams. And if I ingest it at that time, then I would expect to get 90 minutes of a boost of concentration. And the practical way in which that takes place for me is like sometimes at the end of the day, I'm tempted to have some caffeine because I need that energy boost. But of course, caffeine is going to keep me up at night, so I'd rather avoid that. Then L-Tyrosine makes for a really great substitute because of the fact that not only does it give that energy boost, but also boosts motivation. And I can't say enough about how great it is specifically for concentration. I'm very fortunate that after over 10 years of use of L-Tyrosine almost every single day, like I probably used it every single day the past year without any exceptions, I don't feel like I've built any sort of tolerance to it. Also, when I get off of L-Tyrosine, I don't experience any withdrawals, though that may not be you. Some people take L-Tyrosine and they notice that they actually do start to build a tolerance and they need to have even more L-Tyrosine. And that's of course never a good thing because we know that this supplement is going to artificially boost dopamine levels. And it's been said as well that should you increase your dopamine levels, you should also increase your serotonin levels. One way of doing that is by taking L-Tyrosine in the early portion of the day and then using something to boost serotonin in the later portion of the day, something like 5-HTP, which I've talked about right in this video here. 5-HTP being very good for mood regulation and also being good for relaxation and sleep. Now, does L-Tyrosine really boost cognition? That hasn't been my experience. Research does conclude that you should expect some sort of cognitive boost, but with me anyway, the way that I look at L-Tyrosine is really just like an energy booster, concentration booster. I don't feel like when I ingest L-Tyrosine, I come about more creative or I'm able to solve a problem that I couldn't solve prior. No, more so I'm using it around energy levels of productivity. I don't look at it as a dependable nootropic to actually get smarter. What are your thoughts on this wonderful supplement? I still really like it. I'm going to continue using it. If you did get value from this video, subscribe, drop a like, leave a comment below, and if you want to chat with me one-on-one, you can do so on Patreon or send me a direct message on Instagram. And be sure to visit our Discord server. It has a 24/7 chat room. We're having a lot of fun building the community along with great people. I thank you for your interest in nootropics and look forward to seeing you next time.